What's up everyone, today I want to talk about one of the best and most fun rogue builds in Diablo 4 Season 6, Vessel of Hatred. And it's a frozen Heartseeker build, combined with the ultimate rain of arrows that we can get down to like a 3 or 4 second cooldown, meaning we can just cover the screen in arrows all the time. This is a pure archer fantasy build. If you're looking for a ranged bow type build for rogue, this is a really fun one. So the build has two parts. The main focus is around the Heartseeker basic ability. We empower this with the cold clip aspect, meaning every single attack is permanently cold infused without ever having to press, cold imbuement on your bar. Then we combine this with the unique Shard of Varathiel, which gives us up to 200% more damage to our basic abilities and around 50% more basic attack speed, meaning our Heartseekers are just super fast turrets of cold ice. And the second part of the build is using the Word of Hakan ultimate, which gives us a massive boost to our ultimate damage, almost instant cooldown reduction for our ultimate, and boosts all of our imbuments and imbues Rain of Arrows with every single one. So yeah, every couple of seconds you can cast your ultimate and just cover the screen in every type of imbuement. So yeah, this is a really fun build, but I will say, if you're not aware already, Rogue is not in the best spot in Season 6. Everyone is living in Spiritborn Shadow, and you can definitely feel that on Rogue. But yeah, nevertheless, it is a really fun build. It's a really cool playstyle, and it can take on everything in Torment 4 completely fine. So if it sounds like something you want to try, let's get into it. Okay, so let's go over the skill tree from the top. So, Heartseeker. You want a 5 out of 5 Heartseeker. It's our main source of damage. It's the thing we use the most. So 5 out of 5 that, and anything you can get from gear, you want to get that even further. Then you want to enhance it and take primary. This lets it ricochet, and it's how we can clear like a whole screen of mobs with just one ability. Then we go to core, you take nothing. Down here in agility, you want to take caltrops. This is our boss ability. This is what we use on bosses and big packs of elites. You kind of throw the caltrops, it slows them, and you jump back. And then if you use enhanced, they take increased damage. If they stand in it for longer, they take even more. And then you can use this one here, methodical, and it turns them into cold and chills them, which is perfect for our build because all of our Heartseekers are also chilled. So that chill damage increases. We do more damage to chilled enemies, and we do more damage to frozen enemies. So applying chill is 10 out of 10. On the mobility, you kind of have a choice if you want to take Shadow Step or if you want to take Dash. If you take Shadow Step, I would take this one here, Disciplined, so you can reduce its own cooldown. If you take Dash, you want to take Enhanced, and you want to take Disciplined to knock enemies down. That's a source of crowd control, and we get a lot of damage bonus to crowd control. I personally really like Dash. 2 charges, you can zoom into a pack and then zoom straight out. You can, it's good mobility. I really like Dash. You don't have to target anything as much. I don't know, my preference is Dash, but if you want to use Shadow Step, go for it. On the passives, you want to take a lot of them here. There's some good ones, there's some new ones. Weapon Mastery, it's just fantastic, all around damage increases. Unstable Elixirs, every time you use a potion, you stun and gain 18% damage. That means that if you press your potion button every 10 seconds, you're getting a permanent damage boost, even if you don't need it. Then you want to take Trick Attacks, dazing or stunning an enemy increases your crit. And then you want to take Balestra, 12% increased damage after evading, which you'll be doing a lot on a rogue. Down here, you want to take Dark Shroud. This is an ability I will always say to 5 out of 5 on pretty much every single build in the game. 9.6% damage reduction per active shadow. And you can have, I think, like 5 shadows around you. So yeah, absolutely massive damage reduction. Then you want to take Enhanced, grants you movement speed and has a chance not to be consumed, and then Subdiverting. You heal every time a shadow is removed. So when you do get hit and it takes away a shadow, you also get a little boost back of health. Pretty nice. Over here, you take Smoke, throw a smoke and daze the enemy, increase damage from you for 5 seconds, and then hitting an elite will reset it. I mostly just use that on like packs of elites or bosses. Combined with the caltrops, you kind of throw the caltrops down, you throw the smoke, and then they're just taking tons more damage from you. And then we've got some good passives here. Exploit, 18% increased damage. And then Malice, increased damage to vulnerable enemies and even more when they're knocked down. So that's huge, because we do a lot of knockdowns, especially with all our abilities. Okay. Now, this is going to look inflated because of the neck we've got on. The neck gives +8 to all imbuments, but you only want to put 1 point in here. You want to put 1 point in all of the imbuments. So in Shadow, we take Enhanced and then we take Mixed. Enemies inflicted by Shadow Imbuement take 12% increased non-physical damage for 8 seconds. The reason that's so good is we're going to be casting our ultimate every couple of seconds, every 3 or 4 seconds, if you've got it down right. That means that that's constant. That's constantly got that 8-second buff. And your non-physical damage includes your frost damage that you're getting from Heartseeker, I believe. Okay, then on the poison, I don't take any of the extra things, just 1 point. And then this passive here. Dealing poison damage increases your attack speed and lucky hit up to 15%. I think that's quite good. Then you want to take cold, enhanced, and you want to take mixed. Cold skills deal 20% increased damage to cold controlled enemies. Double this against frozen enemies. Again, really powering up our Heartseeker. And you put 3 points here. 15% increased damage to chilled, 30% increased damage to frozen. Okay, and then on the ultimate, we go Rain of Arrows, 5 out of 5, because we can use it so often, every few seconds. May as well put the damage up, 5 out of 5. Prime and Supreme for increased damage and increased potency to imbuements. And then Unto Dawn for 45% more ultimate damage. 3 out of 3 that. And that's your ultimate stuff, really. Then you've got a choice. You can put 3 points into Alchemist's Fortune for 15% increased lucky hit, which I think is very, very important in this build, which you'll see in a minute. Or you can go into Impetus, which gives us more ultimate damage and does some other stuff. I prefer Alchemist's Fortune though. And then I put a few points here into Second Wind. Every time you spend energy, you gain a barrier, which is pretty useful because Torment 4 is rough on a rogue. And then finally, key passive, we take Victimize. This has always been a really, really good one on rogues, and it still is. Dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has a chance to cause a big blast of damage. Huge, absolutely massive damage. It requires lucky hit, which is why we take so many things that trigger lucky hit, and we go in quite hard on the gear for lucky hit. On top of that, it scales with our vuln damage, so we want to really, really play into vuln wherever we can, getting as much vuln damage as possible, which we'll go over again in the gear. But that's the skill tree. The only other thing is the specialization. We go for preparation, so that feels like the best one for this build. We don't use core skills. We don't need that, and we have a really good ultimate that we want to reduce the cooldown on. So every time you spend 75 energy, which I believe is 3 Heartseekers. Yeah, 3 Heartseekers reduces your ultimate's cooldown by 5 seconds, and your ultimate resets other cooldowns and gives damage reduction. Absolutely massive. It's so good when we can use this every few seconds as well. So yeah, preparation is pretty much the only specialization I would go on this build. Yeah, that's everything. Okay, then onto the Mercenaries. You get 2 choices. For the hired Mercenary, the one that follows you around, I'd go for Vajana. Mainly because you get Massacre, which gives you movement speed. So the more mobs you take out, the higher movement speed you get. And then as you go down here, you gain attack speed every time they damage an enemy up to 10%, which is huge. And then if you get the bottom one as well, you gain an additional 5% attack speed. So 15% attack speed is massive. Most of the time here, we're just churning out Heartseekers and Rain of Arrows. We just stood still, or we dash to the next place and do it again. So yeah, this is really good on this build. The second thing, for reinforcement, I would take Rahia. I would go for Crater, so he does damage and then he stuns enemies, which gives us another crowd control. And I would do that whenever we cast our Heartseeker, just so it's constantly being used off cooldown. We have a lot of ways to deal like slows, stuns, knockdowns. This is just another one. It'll just weave in with all your other attacks. But yeah, that's the Mercenaries. Okay, so let's go over the gear, the stats, the aspects, all that stuff. I'm going to use the Mobalytics build I've made for this because it's easier to just show everything. And when you do get on here, it's linked down below. When you get here, there's the T4 endgame version. This does use a few mythic uniques. So if you don't have any, I've made a no mythics version where you can use like uniques or aspects as replacements. So that's an option, but let's go over this. So the most important ones I'm going to cover first, the main things that make this build work. First is the amulet, Word of Hakan. It's a unique. Uniques are pretty easy to farm in Season 6. So it's got a lot of uniques. The Word of Hakan increased cooldown reduction of your Rain of Arrows, your ultimate damage, and it imbues all of every Rain of Arrows is imbued with all the imbuements, and those imbuements are all ranked up. This is huge. It's a big damage boost. It's, how we get our thing off cooldown every few seconds. Then the other big one is Shard of Varathiel. This gives you ranks to your basic skill, basic attack speed, and up to 200% increased damage to your basic attack. This is how Heartseeker just becomes the that you see, how you can just get so many out and deal so much damage. Third is Cold Clip. This is what turns all of your abilities into ice. Your basic skills are always cold imbued and deal increased damage to chilled and frozen enemies. I'd say these 3 are like the key. These 3 are like the key to the build. Then everything else is just more damage and a bonus. So we'll go over all that. Error of Perdition on the helmet. Lucky hit, massive for Victimize. Crit is really good. Movement speed, fine. And then the big damage boost. Just an overall really strong helmet in Season 6. Tyrael's Might, again, is just really strong in Season 6. When you see at the start, like when we're doing the Heartseeker and there's loads of flashes of light, that's Tyrael's Might. That's the extra flashes coming out of you is Tyrael's Might, the barrage that's coming out. But you get damage reduction, 60% resistance to all elements, and max resistance to all elements. Really massive defenses, which is good because it means instead of taking defenses, we can take more, damage things. Then we go Fists of Fate. mainly for the lucky hit chance, mainly for the massive boost to lucky hit chance. And there's other stuff that's really good there. The damage boost is good, but the lucky hit is massive. The only other uniques we have is the Starless Skies. Again, this is it's just really good. It's just really good in a lot of builds. It's just really overpowered, so we take it. Resistance to all elements, attack speed, crit, lucky hit, and then we get the big spending your resource, reduces the cost of your skills, and increases your damage. It's just really, really good. It's just, it works on most builds. Then we have Ragnar's Wake. This is going to take it or leave it. If you don't have it, don't stress. It's cooldown reduction, more resistance to elements, and non-physical damage, which goes into our cold Heartseeker, which is good to have on boots, but you don't need this. This isn't like make or break. Then we have the Frostbitten aspect. Enemies hit by your smoke have a chance equal to your crit to be frozen, but the big bit is the bottom bit. Increase crit strike damage against frozen or stunned enemies, which we'll do a lot of with our icy Heartseeker. And then aspect of the Moonrise. Damage an enemy gives you 4% attack speed, stacking up to 5 times. Upon reaching max stacks, you enter a Blood Rage. Basic skill damage goes up, movement speed goes up. That's the gear. It's pretty straightforward. If you played Heartseeker in a previous season, there's a lot that's very similar. But with the ultimate, we get a little bit more fun out of it. On the stats, there's not really much you can do. There's not really much you can do because we've got so many aspects, we've got so many uniques and so many mythics. There's not much tinkering you can do, but we can talk about it. Okay, so the gear that we can actually change is mostly our weapons. You can see we've got like the weapons, the ring, the pants. Here's what we're looking for. So on your weapons, the main things you're going for is vuln, and that goes for everywhere. The main things you're going for is vuln damage. So crossbow gives you vuln damage over a bow. So try and use a crossbow. Then on the crossbow, try and get vuln damage. On the weapon, go for vuln damage. On the ring, go for vuln damage. Anywhere you can get the vulnerable damage stat is huge because that ties into victimize. The more vulnerable, the more that scales, the more we can pop off all these, the packs of mobs, the more they trigger, and we just deal more and more damage and can clear things faster. So that is like the #1 thing to be looking for on this build. Then on the tempers, we can take chance for Heartseeker to cast twice and vulnerable damage. Again, chance for Heartseeker and vulnerable damage. On the ring, vulnerable damage. I went for dash cooldown reduction as well. But they're like the main things on this build to look for. The only other thing I'd be hunting for is pants with Heartseeker. So either try and find pants with Heartseeker on it natively, or like a greater affix Heartseeker. That's huge. It's a huge damage boost. Or just try and find something good and roll it at the occultist. Try and find, try and roll, if you got the gold, to try and get Heartseeker. They're the main things I'd be going for on this build. Everything else is like a unique or a mythic unique, so you can't really do much tinkering. But they're the main things. It's all here if you want to have a look around and see what works. I think like the utility, lucky hit, chance to stun, chance to slow, that works as well if you can get that anywhere because it's extra crowd control, which goes into a lot of our damage. But yeah, that's it for the stats really. Okay, now let's go over the Runewords and the Gems. And if you noticed in the skill tree, we've got 5 out of 5 in Dark Shroud, but we don't have it in our bar. So we're not casting it. And we also don't have the Umbrous aspect. So we're not getting it from our aspects. So we're not getting any Dark Shrouds. They come in the Runewords. So on the left side, stand still while fighting for 0.3 seconds, which we do a lot. We're just holding down Heartseeker. We're just holding down Heartseeker and then tapping our ultimate whenever it comes off cooldown. So we're doing a lot of standing still, 25. And then for 150, we get a Dark Shroud from, the rogue abilities. So that just means as we're fighting, we will just keep getting Dark Shroud. We just keep getting another one. So you completely don't have to worry about it, which is really nice. And, this is just passive. You don't have to think about it. On the other side, this works really, really well. Cast a skill with a cooldown, which we do a lot. We can use our ultimate, which has a pretty good cooldown. We use it every 3 or 4 seconds. We can use our imbuement. We can use our dash, things like that. And then for this, 200, reduce your ultimate's cooldown by 2 seconds, which is massive. Basically, we only have if you have the neck, you only have like a 10 or 11, maybe up to 15 max second cooldown on your ultimate. You'll be bringing it down with your abilities, and you'll also be bringing it down with this. So yeah, your ultimate's just going to fly away, and you're just going to get it on cooldown, off cooldown a lot. Yeah, that's the Runewords. And then you can also take the Barbarian shout here if you don't want to go too heavy on the ultimate, but I like this. Then on the Sapphire, on the weapons, 54% vuln damage for the Royal. You want to have that on all of them, in my opinion. Vuln damage ties into your victimize, so really, really good. Emeralds in the armor for dexterity, and then across all of here, you can take armor. Skulls for armor, all of your jewelry. Because we have Tyrael's Might, we don't really need the resistances. If you don't have Tyrael's Might, you could take the, what is it? the diamond resistance to all. You can take that instead. I think it's diamond. But yeah, I go skulls on all of mine. Okay, and then finally, let's go Paragon Board. So here's the Paragon Board in full. You can have 5 boards and 5 glyphs. On the glyphs, we go for Control, we go for Devious, Canny, Exploit, and Frost Feeder. And then on the boards, we go Cheap Shot, Exploit Weakness, No Witnesses, and Eldritch Bounty. That's how I've got it. I think that's works best. It was very similar the previous seasons. Heartseeker builds work really well like this, except for maybe Frost Feeder is a new addition. Now we have the cold clip aspect in this build. But yeah, that's how we run it. I'll talk through it as well. This assumes like max Paragon points. So all the times you see us like do anything up here, like getting these extra things, that's like because we've got so many Paragon points. But I want to talk through the main things to do. So head up the right side and get damage, head to the middle and get the control glyph, increase damage to slowed, chilled enemies, increase damage to stunned or frozen enemies, and increase damage to crowd controlled enemies. We have a lot of knockdown, stuns, slows, all that sort of stuff. Frozen, that's incredible straight away. Then we go up to the Eldritch Bounty. You want to head into here. I went for the Devious, which is whenever you hit an enemy with the crowd control, they take increased damage. Again, perfect. Then you can go up here and get the legendary node. When you attack with an imbued skill, you gain resistance and increased damage to that element for 9 seconds. Pretty good. And there's lots of good stuff around it, like non-physical damage, damage reduction. Moving on to the next board, you can go out the left side and go to No Witnesses. Down here, you can get the Canny glyph. Non-physical damage increases all the non-physical damage the enemy takes. So as we're hitting with our cold Heartseekers, that's just more damage and increased non-physical damage for everything around it, which is massive. You've got ultimate damage here as well, damage here, loads of good stuff. That pretty much take every node here. You've got attack speed, non-physical damage. You've got life, more life, resistances. And then you've got the legendary ultimates gain 10% damage from your damage with ultimate bonus up to 45%, and then grant that to all skills, which powers up everything. So yeah, this is absolutely juicer build. It's like really good. I took pretty much every single skill here. And then you can go left, you get exploit weaknesses and the exploit glyph. This gives you vuln. So you deal increased damage to vulnerable targets, and the first time you hit them, they become vulnerable, which is good. And then everything around it, damage to elites. There's more stuff over here like vulnerable damage, damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, armor, really good board. Legendary node, exploit weakness. Hit a vulnerable enemy has up to 6% chance to increase your damage, up to 25%. So yeah, really good. And then finally, Cheap Shot and Frost Feeder. Cheap Shot gives you 5% increased damage for each nearby enemy that's crowd controlled. This doesn't go off as much as you might think. This doesn't go off that much, but considering how the board layout is, as you come up here and you go and get the glyph and put Frost Feeder in, as you get that, it's only like 5 or 6 points to get there. So it's worth taking, I think. Frost Feeder is just damage to chilled targets, which is perfect because everything's chilled all the time, and frozen targets. And then you've got like damage, you've got damage to crowd control, damage to healthy, damage to crowd control. But yeah, that's everything. And I've also like juiced out every board here. So you can see like we're 110 out of 40. Just to boost those numbers up for more damage. As you push further and you go in further into the pits, you're gonna have to squeeze out every single bit of damage you can get because we're not a spirit born. We're struggling. But yeah, that's the board. Like I say, focus on your glyphs first. I just go glyph to glyph and get your glyph, get your ultimate, glyph, get your ultimate, glyph, get your ultimate, and then as you start going into the 200s, you can start spreading out to all these extra nodes. But yeah, that's everything. I'll stop rambling on. That's the build. It's really fun. Know your limits. You're on a rogue. You're not the meta this season. Our days are over. But yeah, that's everything. It's all here. Link down below. If you have any questions, let me know. If you've had any experience with this, let me know. Anything you'd change, I'm curious. I don't think this can go crazy. I don't think we're going to be pushing this deep into the hundreds. I can definitely see the ceiling on this, but that we've got to accept that. We've got to accept our limits this season. I'm going to try some other builds on Rogue as well, but this is probably the one I'm having the most fun on. I've tried the spinning, I've tried Barrage, but I'm really enjoying this one the most. So I want to keep trying to push it further. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you for watching. If you like this style of video, these builds, then do consider subscribing for more. I make lots of builds every season. And yeah, like the video if you like the video. But that's it from me. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.